Yeah, started.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, is it visual to everyone?
Yes, go ahead.
Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to everyone. I am Mohammad Armagan Farid, research pharmacist from NUMS and operational associate at Q Care Health Group. It's a pleasure to have you all join us today for this important and timely webinar, Unlocking the Secrets to Successful Patient Recruitment and Retention. At Q Care, we believe that meaningful patient engagements begin with understanding. And today, we are fortunate to have two exceptional speakers who will share valuable insights on how innovation is transforming the way we approach recruitment and retention in the clinical research. So, to set a tone, I do like to start with a quote that if you want to know how to improve patient care, ask the patient. Raghna Holiday. So, this is our agenda of our today webinar. And let's begin our learning journey with our keynote presentation. It's an honor to introduce Sally, who will speaking on patient recruitment and retention in the era of intelligent innovation. Sally brings a wealth of expertise and fresh perspective on how technology and strategy can work hand in hand to improve the clinical trial. So it's over to you, madam. Let me start your
Sure.
presentation.
Can you share my slides, please?
Yeah. Just yeah. Is it okay?
Yes. Well, thank you
Yeah.
everyone for your time. Um, good afternoon. And thank you, Armagan, for your kind introduction. I want to also
Thank
thank
you.
my behind the scene advisor, Arman Yusefi, who is taking care of IT. And again, thanks everybody for joining today. I'm excited to dive into artificial intelligence, which is transforming clinical research and clinical trials. Um, I see that we have a roundtable rather webinar. We're 8 people. We're a cozy group, so it's very conversational. Please share your insights, especially in QA session, and um, share your perspective. Uh, so so AI, artificial intelligence, is transforming clinical trials, especially in the area of patient recruitment and retention. And as we all know, traditional recruitment can be very slow, can be costly process. But today I want to show that AI is changing that and making clinical trials more efficient, faster, and patient-centered. And patient would like fast, friendly, cost-effective, and supportive system, which is patient-centered, but AI can do that. So I'll start by discussing the challenge first, and then I move on to recruitment. And when recruitment is done, we go to retention. And then I'm going to share some examples of real example of companies that have implemented AI currently. And then I touch on ethical aspects of responsible AI. So let's start by discussing the challenge we face. We know that more than 85% of clinical trial uh, face recruitment delays, and this will cost industries, I mean pharmaceutical industries, millions of dollars each year. Not only that, third of participants will drop out during study. That cause again industries delays and studies delays and incomplete data. Um, and I remember in my past career when I worked one-on-one with patients and recruitment in recruitment clinics. We used to hire recruitment agencies, and they charge us quite high fee. Recruitment agencies charge quite high fee, and despite that, we still had so many challenges in recruitment. So for that, we need smarter solutions, and AI can be a game changer. So that is the recruitment, that is the challenge. Now, I want to say how AI can help recruitment. Imagine being able to match patients with clinical trials almost instantly based on their electronic health record, based on lab results, and based on social media data, like patients' behavior. AI can analyze all of these in minutes. And not just finding patients, AI can predict who's likely to stay in the throughout the study and engage throughout the study. This targeted approach cuts down on recruitment time and saves money, and no more reliance on traditional and expensive recruitment firms and agencies. So this is what AI can do: match patients in your pool of patients. You have a pool of patients, and AI can match a short list those patients and match it with the different studies that you have, and also tell you who most likely stay in the study and who most likely drop out. So I'm not saying that AI can make good decisions all the time, because they're always in the loop. So when AI tells us, okay, that person or that patient most likely drop out during the study, be it 1-year study or 6-year study, we need to find the barriers or pain points or bottlenecks in that patient, why AI thinks that. And, we come up with strategies, or be it more support, be it study patient's behavior to provide more support to that patient, and see if really AI made good decision or not. So that's the recruitment part. Now let's go to retention, like how AI enhances retention, and keeping patients engaged throughout the trial. So AI doesn't stop at recruitment, as we said. It can monitor patients' behavior through apps, through social media, through chatbots, through wearables, to spot early signs of dropouts. So it gives us hints that that patient might not stay. And why we think like that? So when patients start missing visits or stop responding to communications, AI can alert, and allowing us to take action before it's too late, talking with patients. And this is how we improve retention and make the trial process much more patient-friendly. So that is the retention. Now we go to real world example. So these aren't just a theory that I am telling you. Let's look at real world examples. If you heard of DeepSeek, it was AI company. I don't think they exist anymore. I think they've been acquired. For instance, DeepSeek AI helped hospitals boost or accelerate patient enrollment by 80%. Mayo Clinics uses AI to predict dropout risks with accuracy of 90%. Or other companies, they use AI to personalize trial matching. So these tools are making clinical trials not only faster, but also smarter, more cost effective, and better for patients. And I want to let you know quickly how QCare, our company, got involved in AI. So we're proud to be collaborating with leading, AI startups, AI technology partner, to develop a seamless and intelligent platform tailored specifically for clinical researchers. So this innovative platform is designed to enhance patient experience throughout smarter and personalized engagement, and also streamlining internal communication. It's very important to cover patient experience and also cover internal documentation and trial workflow by integrating AI into core clinical operations. So we're solving some of the most pressing pain points in trial execution. Our hope is that. So I'm going to admit someone, sorry, and then ensuring faster and more efficient recruitment and higher retention and improved data accuracy. So our goal is basically to bridge the gap between technology and research, helping clinical teams focus on what matters most, which is patients, and advancing science and delivering better outcome for patients. So this is my quick pitch for QCare. And now, my last comment would be ethics and oversight. We know, of course, that with every technology comes responsibility, and it's critical that we ensure our AI models are fair and transparent, and they should not perpetuate biases or leave out underrepresented groups. We must follow guidelines like HIPAA, GDPR, or FDA standards to ensure that data we use and the decision AI makes are ethical and compliant. And when done right, AI has the potential to improve health data and both the speed and fairness of clinical trials. And to wrap up, next please. AI is a tool, to help us. And humans are always in the loop to check AI's decision. But it makes our work way, way, way much easier. When used responsibly, can make clinical trial faster, more cost-effective, and more patient-centered. And by reducing our reliance on traditional recruitment agencies and implementing smarter technologies, we can accelerate research, lower costs, and create better outcome for patients. Yes, so this is my presentation. Thank you all for your time and listening. I will look forward to your insights and perspective in QA or after Lydia's presentation. Over to you, Lydia.
Hey all. Did you want to share the? Okay, perfect.
So, thank you, Shelly, for the insightful presentation. Now let's continue the conversation with our next expert, Lydia Budette, who will be sharing her expert talk on participant recruitment and retention. Over to you, madam.
Perfect. So I'll be speaking for a few minutes just on the topic of recruitment and retention in alignment with the webinar theme here. I'll introduce myself initially, and then I'll go through a little bit of content. But I do think it's important to have some context of where each of us are coming from and where our perspectives are. I always find it interesting learning how people get into clinical research initially, because it can be a bit of a funny series of paths. And I got into clinical research after graduate school when I was frustrated by the slow speed of academic research, but I enjoyed the working on the cutting edge and the research aspect, and was craving kind of marrying research in that clinical setting as well. So clinical research was a great fit to be able to be working in a clinic setting, but then also having close ties to where research and development and drug development is at. I've been working in research sites, both small and large networks of research sites across North America for over a decade, and I have worked in a number of different therapeutic areas and phases of research. So today I'm hoping to speak to some of the learnings from my experience over the past decade on recruitment and retention, and also speak to how that is adapted or varied given different types of trials. So how we're making a different strategy at a research site level for a dermatology, rare disease dermatology trial versus a large volume vaccine trial versus a long-term cardiovascular endpoint trial, and seeing where those shift. So we'll go into a little bit of content next. When I sit back and think about participant recruitment, participant retention, what those actually mean to me. I don't know why slides are moving around here. There we go. A lot of people take a zoned in approach here when they're thinking of participant recruitment, especially participant recruitment is our strategy of how we enroll participants, accurate participants into a trial quickly. So that's the recruitment side, and retention is how to keep participants in the study. And a lot of people take that very focused approach. When I think of recruitment and retention of participants into trials, I often look at it from a broader perspective. And I look at aspects related to how the protocol is designed, how people are trained on the protocol, both at a study site as well as in CROs or sponsoring organizations, and take a look at what are the study systems that are involved, both patient-facing as well as non-patient-facing systems. What's the approach within marketing or advertisement? What staff at a research site are involved in the recruitment campaigns and taking those leads in, like Shelley was mentioning, when you have those like high volumes of kind of lists of potential patients, how are you managing that with systems and people are you using in those situations? What approach are you taking at a site level to the informed consent process? How does that impact both recruitment and retention? And then looking kind of at that full life cycle of a research study for how the research site staff and investigators are impacting the recruitment and retention. And then just a couple small notes of small enhancements that can really support retention when a big focus of the site is the participant experience and not just churning through people as if they're numbers. So I'm going to dive into a couple of these in a bit more depth. Not all of them, because none of us want to be here for 8 hours of me rambling, but I'll go into a couple of them in a little bit more depth here. The first one is one that not everybody thinks of immediately with recruitment and retention, and that's how your protocol is designed initially. And that's our very first time point where we can have influence to be working on a trial where it's set up for success in terms of recruitment and retention. And it's often a different group of people who are working at the protocol design level, the scientists at the sponsoring company. Often there's people within the CRO that are involved in supporting putting together the protocol, making sure it's operationalizable. But when we're looking from a recruitment and retention lens at our protocol, what we should be looking for is assessing how well that protocol has been designed, specifically to maximize flexibility given the specific scientific constraints. So a couple examples here: if you have a research study with frequent follow-up visits or quite a few follow-up visits over the course of, let's say, 6 months or a year, what are those visit windows that are being defined, and why were they defined in that duration? I'm working in clinic still, and we have a research study where for the first 6 months of the study, the patients are seen every 2 to 4 weeks, and every single one of those visits has a plus minus 3-day visit window. So if somebody's away for vacation for a week, which I'm sorry, who doesn't go away for a week at some point in the summer, you're out of window immediately. If a staff is away for a week and you don't have somebody who can come and cover every single one of those visits, bam, out of window patients. And the questions in those situations are, from a participant perspective, they're going to feel guilty about missing an appointment or having something pushed down of a schedule, and was it justified to have the really tight visit windows, or would plus minus 7 days still have gotten us the same set of data when you're doing monthly visits? The second one that we've seen a big push for in recent years is looking at flexibility of visit location. Is every single visit need to have blood work and be done in clinic? Is there the option to do some on a telehealth or a phone call visit? Is there the option to do any direct to patient services or decentralized aspects? So taking a look at the degree of flexibility of those visits so that you can make it just easier for people to participate in studies over long term. And then the final aspect I wanted to touch on for protocol design, if anyone here is involved in it, is making sure that there's full simulations or mock runs of study visits to pre-identify any challenging aspects, any aspects that are going to be not necessarily challenging for the site staff. What I'm speaking to here is challenging for the participant to be involved in. Are they going to be having to go through like 3 hours of straight testing in like a perfect day, which extends out to 5 hours on a day where stuff isn't working? Is there any malleability there if there's kind of combinations of procedures that are really, really challenging for participants to get through? And specifically thinking here of the typical patient profile that's in that trial. If it's an elderly, relatively frail patient population, having them go from like room to room to room to room to do multiple tests or procedures, or now you're going to go and do an ECG, and now you're going to do blood work, and now you're going to do urine tests, now you're going to do 8 blood pressures. Like, it can feel a little bit overwhelming for them. So trying to match the trial to the population. The second topic I wanted to speak to is, again, not something we initially think of with recruitment and retention, but it's really, really relevant, is the actual systems that we're using within the study. And I'm taking a different approach to this topic than Shelley did. Shelley, you spoke to some of the tools and systems that exist to amplify components like recruitment. What I'm speaking to more is your general study systems and how that impacts the potential of your trial to be good, well-performing, especially from a retention perspective. In many, this is common knowledge within many clinical research sites, that so many of the studies that are out there now, you're accessing 5 to 10 different systems in order to have that studying done on a tablet for an ePro device, where it used to be all done on paper. Maybe there's a specific ECG device that's being used in the trial. Maybe there's a specific 24-hour blood pressure monitoring device. Whatever there's an IRT system, there's an EDC system. There's about every combination of letters you can put together in an acronym. There's a system for that in most trials. So any glitches, bugs, anything like that within the systems, it's annoying for the sites, but if I don't know how many of you guys have participated in research studies as well, it's also very annoying from a participant perspective to be in an appointment, be almost done the appointment or halfway through the appointment or at the beginning of the appointment even, and have a research coordinator sitting there, oh, sorry, this tablet keeps restarting, it won't work, or it's not connecting or syncing properly, I'm gonna have to go call the help desk. And you can really have negative impact on the patient experience. And this all starts from the CRO's decisions around vendors and vetting those vendors, and the responsibility of vendors to have systems be fully stress tested and ready for implementation, and then responsibility at a staff level, but I'll touch on that in the training topic. And then the second key point I wanted to speak to here is the design of any system especially that's patient facing. Does the way that it was designed match your target patient population? I can't even tell you the number of times I'm working on a trial right now where the e-consent module, the space where the participant has to sign, is like smaller than my pinky finger. And these are advanced age heart failure patients who probably haven't signed something on a tablet ever before, being asked to sign in this tiny little spot on a tablet with, I swear, the faintest gray line around the specific spot they have to sign. None of them can see the spot that they have to sign because the line is too faint. And so they're scribbling with their finger and nothing's recording because they started 1 centimeter outside of the box, and it's very frustrating for them. So thinking of the user experience design of that actual system if it's interacting with the patient. And then the third is, we already kind of spoke to it. Anytime you're having errors or glitches, you're going to or disrupt the flow of person's participation, which ties directly into the retention aspect. It ties to recruitment a little bit if it's a system that you're using in the very first visit, but retention especially, you want people's experience to feel more VIP and as seamless as possible. And on that note, we've done a couple topics that are very retention heavy. This one is a bit more recruitment heavy, and it's speaking to kind of that second phase of recruitment after what Shelley was speaking to of identifying patients in. This is looking more at the way that informed consent is approached at a research site and how that impacts the recruitment of participants. Realistically, an effective informed consent conversation is one of your best recruitment and retention tools. There's many different technically compliant ways to approach informed consent. Anything from the participant self-reviewing on their own and coming into the clinic and signing it at clinic. So some clinics that will mail an informed consent to a participant, for example, and then have them sign this in clinic. I've seen some research sites where they literally read it word for word out loud to the participant, and it takes in those 30-page consent forms a very long time, and it might not be the most engaging tactic. I've seen situations where the physician does the complete consent versus a coordinator reviewing it, or balances between those two. Consenting processes that involve good comprehension conversations versus ones that are just very one-directional. So trying to kind of zone that informed consent approach in to focus on a couple of things, like ensuring the participant has a good understanding of the entire commitment into the trial, which is going to really support your retention aspect, and kind of getting their buy-in. When I'm doing an informed consent for a long-term trial, I'm emphasizing it's voluntary to be in a study, voluntary to stay in a study, but please do not commit to this study unless you're ready to actually commit to this study. And we don't want you to go into this with the plan of dropping out in a year just because you want some of the study but not to participate in the full study. You really want to get that buy-in of them that they're ready for the long haul in those long-term trials. And we'd rather not enroll somebody in that's going to be a challenge from a retention perspective. So making sure that that informed consent approach matches the trial at a site level. I'll keep going because we don't have endless time, and I have a few more to go through. I wanted to speak to a lot of my examples because they're based at a site level, is very, very dependent on research coordinator role. I was investigator meeting a few months ago for like a 5-year-long cardiovascular endpoint trial, and they spent the entire afternoon of the investigator meeting speaking to recruitment and retention. It's a very, very timely topic to be speaking to in this webinar. But like a full afternoon with 300 people in the room of the investigator meeting, all talking about retention. And it was actually a little bit funny because the entire panel was all upper management at the pharma company MPIs. And so I raised my hand and said, well, your best retention tool is a good research coordinator. You should put a research coordinator on the panel. So then they made me go on the panel and speak to the research coordinator perspective. But realistically, your research coordinators, if they're good at informed consent discussions, if they're well prepared and have like stress tests embedded and kind of cushioned from all of the inherent challenges in a study, if they can be that cushion so the participant doesn't feel the blows as much. If the study systems aren't well designed, if the e-consent box is crappy, you can explain it to the participant right off the bat. Hey, you know what, you're blind, let me put your finger where you need to start your signature and let's work through this together kind of thing. So you're a pillow essentially. And the third one is just for building like long-term retention in trials. If your coordinators are well versed in that therapeutic area and have good knowledge of when to escalate to physician, when to escalate to family doctor, what directions to point the patient in, they can be that health navigator for the participant. That's going to create that overall more VIP experience for the patient while they're in a trial, and they're more likely to stay and be loyal to it. I wanted to speak briefly to training approaches, because again, this is one of those indirect components that's really important for recruitment and retention, mainly retention, but making sure that the CRAs are well trained on how to identify sites that have high quality participant experience as a focus. The second is if you have people pre-screening, just people or systems, pre-screening to see which patients may be eligible for a trial, making sure that that system is as foolproof as possible, because the last thing we want is to be booking ineligible patients, unnecessary participant burden, it's inefficient recruitment practices. It's not a great scenario to be in either way. And then the third one, kind of relating back to what we said on the previous slide, how well trained are your coordinators on facilitating smooth visit flow, even in complex visits? Are mock runs being done? Is the training that's received from the CRO or the sponsor or the vendor systems, is that adequate or useful training versus how much of it is self-learned? So making sure that that training approach is matching the complexity of the visit so that the visit flow can be as smooth as possible. There's a bumpy visit flow or a patient who's feeling the blows of every single component in clinical research that is bumpy. If a patient feels every single one of those blows, the retention is going to be very, very challenging. And then the final point here, which kind of ties everything together, is the overall focus on participant experience within the clinical trials. So if you have, for example, work in trials with fasting visits, so patients who can't have have to come in the morning before they've had their breakfast. Do you have water on site? Do you have snacks or breakfast items available? I mean, I'm at one of our clinics today. We have a little mini fridge and a snack basket. So patients who are coming in for fasting visits, or realistically, research coordinators or staff who are a little hungry between patients, but there's always something that's available, and it just feels a little bit more friendly than a typical healthcare encounter. Think about the types of visits that you're conducting at your research site. Do you have visits that are longer than 2 or 3 hours? Do you have a comfortable seating area for those participants? Or are they just sitting on a hard chair in one room for 3 hours with no entertainment, no Wi-Fi, no nothing? Like, adequately prep them for it. And then the final one is if you know you're going to have a longer, more complex visit, or even if it's the very first person being screened in a study, let them know ahead of time. We might run into some snags where this is a lot of components to get through today. This is the first time we're using blank, blank, blank system. We'll work through it together. We appreciate your patience. Prep them ahead of time so that they can schedule accordingly as well. And I've even seen some great examples when there's longer or more complex visits. People like to know what they've done, what's coming next, where you can almost give them a cute little checklist or something. These are the 6 things we're going to get through today. We're done 1, 2, 3. Now let's move on to the next one. Even if it's not super complex and that's not necessary, the first thing you should be doing when they come in, after greeting them and catching up, is letting them know these are the things we'll be going through today, and kind of reminding them of progress as you go throughout. I know we're running short on time. I'll go through this one quickly because it's my last slide, but I wanted to just kind of tie things together with all of these different kind of aspects of running clinical research that are tied to recruitment and retention, taking all of those and just reinforcing how we adjust those to different therapeutic areas, different study duration or complexity, and different clinical settings. So And maybe this can be some of the topic areas that we use within the Q&A time period. I know we don't have too much time left, but thinking of how we adjust recruitment and retention in a common disease area versus a rare disease area, a condition with high disease burden versus low disease burden. So to that, I'm speaking to if somebody's in advanced kidney disease and in for dialysis on a daily basis would be high disease burden versus somebody with early stage fatty liver disease where you don't even feel symptoms, but you know you have a condition. So what are the different ways that we approach working with patients in those scenarios? From a duration and complexity, I mean, we all know that those range wildly. You can have some studies where it's one single visit. You can have some trials that go for decades. And study visits that can be 15 minutes and study visits can be, 7 days of inpatient. And then different constraints that you may be facing within different clinical settings. You might not be able to set up a participant lounge area in a busy downtown hospital that's constrained for space. You might live in an area where there's great transit options. You might have no transit options. You might have accessibility to Uber or taxis. You might live in a rural area where that's not an option to offer to your patients. So just taking all of these and then like putting different lenses on it to apply into each of our situations. So that is the slides that I wanted to go through here. And I'll pass it back over. I don't know if Shelly, you wanted to go, or if Mohammed, you want to just speak.
Yeah, well, yeah, go ahead, Emma.
Thank you, Lydia, for your enlightened talk. And now it's session of Q&A. Feel free to ask questions, please.
Maybe I start with question. So Lydia, you just mentioned it's not always an option to give patients transportation fee or reimburse them or use stipends or whatever. So would that be one of the barriers for patients to participate?
I mean, in those scenarios, it kind of depends on I always think you're going to run into people who are interested but have no way of getting to your clinic. So people who don't drive, working on a type 1 diabetes and advanced kidney disease trial right now. And 50% of the participants don't have their license anymore because they have vision loss related to their diabetes. So it's very common in some disease areas or conditions where a lot of your participants are not going to have the ability to transport themselves to the hospital or clinic or wherever that's taking place. So I think, again, that ties to the matching your strategy to your target patient population and the specific setting of those. So in a dialysis population, in an advanced complex type 1 diabetes situation, in studies that are targeting the elderly, and this goes to a site selection aspect, so you want to be able to make sure that you're bringing sites in that have the ability to offer that patient travel. But realistically, a sponsor CRO could set up a specific travel vendor for sites that sites can tap into if it's anticipated that travel is going to be a big barrier for retention for those recruitment and retention for that population, and just ensuring that travel vendor services all of the geographic regions that are covered within the sites being selected. So it might cluster or limit the regions that can be utilized.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Michelle, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. I'll briefly introduce myself. So I have been a quality professional and I'm recently transitioning into clinical research. Currently, I'm interning as a clinical research intern. So my question, my first question is for Shelley. I would like to thank you for sharing the success rate while involving AI in the systems. what you mentioned is the company has been using AI for screening, recruitment, and retention processes. So, what I want to ask is, do you need a strategy for validation of these processes? Because you do have about 85% success rate, but is there a strategy to validate what like a certain KPIs that what you're seeing is actually that right? What you're seeing?
Yes, yes. So AI makes decision. Yes, there's a platform when you put inclusion, exclusion criteria and your protocol in, and AI based on that, a shortlist patients from that pool, that big pool, and then there is
Okay.
a verification system in place that you want to make sure that AI gave you good decision, like made good decision. Yes, we always verify,
Okay.
always patient by patient. Yeah. But you know, it's
Could
very
you?
efficient because you have a smaller pool of patients. You can go through them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And
So, sorry,
well,
before you go ahead, so I remember, so just from experience, I want to share my
yes.
experience. I used to, a decade ago, I used to work for emergency unit within chain of hospitals. And I was sitting down at my desk and going through piles of paper. And you live in Toronto and you're familiar with emergency system here, right? When you go and what happens. So
Yes.
piles of paper. Like I was juggling from task to task every day. And the end of the day, I felt like I did nothing, just, reading those doctor's notes and chasing doctor, what you mean by this, what you mean by that, and verify if the patient is eligible for my study. At the end of the day, I was just, exhausted and identify two patients, for example, or one patient.
Okay.
And when AI is now in place, oh my gosh, like it's a miracle. It's a miracle to be paperless. It's a miracle to touch a button and, see everything in place. It's just so nice to see. Yeah, go
Thank
ahead.
you for sharing that experience.
Yeah.
I do like AI. I have been using AI. Yeah, and I am overblown by just the answers and the user interface that it gives you, as well as yeah, it improves on a lot of systems. Coming to that, I had a question for Lydia. So Lydia mentioned that apart from screening, recruitment, and retention, AI sometimes can be used for other processes which can improve patient interface. And some of those processes can be regulated by the FDA, especially with the recent FDA guideline on using AI. Uh, is your company utilizing what I was wondering is how do you incorporate those regulatory aspects as well as with incorporating AI into more crucial systems within your company? So how do you strategize on that?
Yeah. Yeah, with the group that I'm with, most of the AI implementation that we have is similar to what Shelley was speaking to, actually, where it's an
Okay.
AI tool that's used for screening the electronic medical records or the EMR system.
Okay.
So it's screening through that EMR system relative to a criteria list for that specific trial, and then generating kind of gold lists and then like these maybe lists and these people wouldn't
Okay.
qualify, and then essentially just trying to speed up the process of identifying potential
Okay.
participants. So graduating from what Shelley was speaking to of
Yes.
the paper charts and digging through stuff and feeling like you weren't getting anywhere, and then the next kind of decade was electronic medical records and building database queries into those EMR systems to pull a list of potential patients. But again, it's very dependent on the data being well structured and doesn't deal with kind of nuances or semantics or any of those components. And then AI is kind of the next level beyond that, where your list that you're getting for your database list that you're getting from your EMR is not only faster to come up with, like you don't need to manually build out the querying steps, but it also can deal with unstructured data much better. So you should be having a more accurate list of, you can run a more targeted query and you end up with a more accurate list, which then means less parts to manually review through, less people to reach out to, less patients to reach out to. So that's, I would say, the main like AI application within the recruitment and retention space that we're seeing at most research sites. And all of the from applying it from a regulatory perspective, most of them are, they have to be done in a anonymized way, where none of the, it's all using like the ID numbers within the EMR systems to identify the patients, and then it's kind of connected in ideal scenarios. It's then also connected in with your CTMS, so that you're not having to do something in an EMR system and then do something in an AI system that's connected to it, and then also import it into another one and manually enter all of that information. So if it's all connected together, it can be a much more efficient ecosystem. But there's guidelines and that you have to adhere to as the AI vendors, as well as a site using an AI vendor, in terms of ensuring that you're not going to potentially breach the EMR data by adding tagging like an additional vendor into it. And we do find, as a research site, we're having to get specific approval from each of the sponsors whenever you're using an AI tool. There'll be little ding, ding, ding alarm bells that go off, and they want to make sure that you're not feeding the entire proprietary protocol into an OpenAI tool, where it then becomes something that AI is trained on. Like they have to make sure that their protocol text and data is protected and not being fed to the AI monsters. So those are some of the like guidelines or frameworks that we've seen come up in the most recent year.
Okay, that is really nice to know, because I haven't been in that in a space where AI has been incorporated, and I was not aware of how the regulatory aspects are being taken care of. So thank you so much. And the other, I loved your presentation, and it was, I found it very current with the E6R3 revision, and that is what I found relevant is your approach. It was an overall risk-based approach. And so what I wanted to know with the R6, R3, E6R3 is, so what are the recruitment and retention challenges that you would reframe based on this current revision?
So I think it's a good question. I'm trying to think of like a specific example for that. Is there ones that you had in mind there?
Yes, it was more towards incorporation of the AI. So within the recruitment retention process, within that process, the guidelines towards R3 is E6R3 is more critical to quality. So it's not about checking everything, but prioritizing what matters.
Yeah.
So given that,
I see where you're coming from
given that
here.
you're introducing AI, so given that, and given that AI is being introduced, what is any specific example of how what challenges would be in reframing any challenges or reframing that you would have? I know it's a long question. I know you're out of time, but I'm so sorry.
That's good. The extra information helps me understand where you're coming from here. So, and this is my perspective. Maybe Shelley, you can provide input second. But none of my knowledge, or at least the AI applications that I've seen, be implemented so far in clinical research, none of them are AI working on its own. It's all letting a kind of assigning AI to do some of the grunt work, dirty work, and then there's always human oversight. So in the examples we've been speaking to where AI tools are implemented for doing the like initial querying of the electronic medical records database, you're not going directly from that list generated by the AI and enrolling them into a study. That's not a direct connection. I think that would be a challenge if it was, but you're taking that list and then a physical human with a brain is going through each of those charts, because you have no idea if they're interested or not, or if their medical record is accurate, or if they've moved to Winnipeg or whatever the scenario may be. So it's being used as a tool, but not as a replacement at this point. Similar for other AI applications that we see within clinical research, whether it's if we think at like a sponsor or CRO level, if they're using AI as an initial scanning for trends in the data, adverse event trends, that kind of thing. It's data mining and initial flagging of components that is then reviewed by somebody who's an expert in that field. So it kind of narrows in the human expert role and removes out some of that like grunt work. I don't know, Shelley, if you had thoughts as well on that one.
Yeah, you got it perfectly.
Well.
You got it perfectly right. I mean, you explained it perfectly. So it's a modern AI machine learning. It's automation. I can't go to technical part of it, but again, as Lydia said, it's data mining and narrowing it down for expert to review. So how AI does it technically, I'm not in that area. Like we give so much information to AI and it extracts it and verifies and and gives it to you, and you double check it to make sure it's correct. So to my understanding, it also gives you checklists. Like you have this and that today. It's an assistant for you, like how we use ChatGPT these days as a virtual assistant. It gives you virtual assistant too. Like you have checklists today, you have this in your calendar, you have this and that to verify, to check, to double check. It's just I love it.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
we
much.
need to wait to see the products and use it.
Yes. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences and real life examples to clear a lot of doubts in my head. I know when I read the new current versions, since I'm new to the field, it gets very complex, and that's why I had the questions to ask. But your real life examples clears a lot of doubt for me, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you for
That's all
asking
from me.
questions. Yes, thank you, Michelle. We have 2 minutes left. I know there are other people here. Shireen, I saw Amal here. Do you have any question? Shireen or Shireen, if I pronounce it correctly. Do you have any question? If not, then we can wrap it up, Armagan.
I think no. No question, but yeah. Thank you for the
All right.
presentation.
Thank you, Shireen. Yeah.
So that's bring to the end of our today's session. A big thank to the Shelley and Lydia for the sharing their expertise, and to all of you for your active participation and thoughtful questions. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. We will have more webinars. Hopefully see you again.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And if someone wanted the recorded, please share their emails, so we will provide them the recorded tape of this webinar.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.